Everyone asks us the same question since we've moved. So, is it actually cheaper to live in Cyprus than the UK? The honest answer is it depends what you're comparing. Some things are cheaper, some things surprised us, and some things cost more than we expected. Today, we're opening up on our real budget and showing you exactly where our money goes each month. Hello everyone and welcome back to Jeli's Journey. Today we are having a bit of a discussion on the real cost of living in Cyprus in 2026. Now we are going to open up and tell you what we spend roughly in the month and what our expat budget is. Now everyone does ask us the same question since we have moved over. It is it actually cheaper to live in Cyprus than the UK? And to be honest, me and Jerry always pause before we answer that one, because the honest answer is, it depends what you're comparing against. Now some things are cheaper, some things did surprise us, and some things cost more than what we actually expected. Now whether that was because we were a bit naive in our research, but we were a little bit surprised. So today we're opening up our real budget and showing you exactly where our money goes each month. And no, we're not going to tell you it's all cheap and perfect. Before we start, two quick notes. Now, first of all, these are our personal figures for Eastern Cyprus. Now, prices vary by area, by season, and by how you choose to live. So this just gives you an example of how me, Jerry, lives here. Now, a family of four in a resort town will not have the same budget as a couple living further out. Second, costs do change, so treat these numbers as just a guide or a realistic snapshot, not a promise. Now what we're showing you is how two people live in Eastern Cyprus actually spend their money in 2026. Oh, and we can't forget Sid the pooch and the two cats that seem to have adopted us. So let's start with the biggest cost, somewhere to live. Now fortunately we don't have rent or a mortgage, but housing prices will depend massively on where you decide to live, so the location. Now a modern apartment in Protoras or a property near the coast will generally cost a lot more than something similar in Paralimni or the red soil villages such as Leopetri, Zilafau, Satira, Avguru, Freneros, Dorinia or even Brasiles. Although in recent months we have seen prices even in the villages rise. So as a rough guide, we have searched a local estate agent or two, and this is an example of their lowest long-term rentals. Now again, it just gives you an idea and a snapshot of what the prices are like. Also, please bear in mind if you are considering long-term rental and you are bringing your pets over, rental agreements may stipulate that they will not accept the pet, or they might even charge more. So just keep an eye out for that one. Now here is a mistake we sometimes see as well. People will look at holiday rental prices and assume that's what it costs to live here. It isn't like that. Long-term lets are usually a very different price to the short-term holiday lets. Our advice, look at the long-term listings, not the holiday websites, and factor in deposits, agency fees, and the cost of setting up your utility bills such as your water and your electricity. Now, for a guide and for an example, you could look at reputable estate agents such as Blue Surf Properties and also Island Homes. Now, they both have websites for long-term rental and also to buy. Now this can be a new sale or even a resale. Their staff respond really quickly should you want to contact them and have any questions. Now just a heads up, for residency purposes, when we moved over you needed either a 12-month tenancy agreement or you needed to show your sales agreement in order to gain that residency permit. Next, it's the utility bills. Now for us, the two biggest bills are the electricity and water. Now, we live in a 3-bedroom detached villa. We tend not to skimp on the electricity, using the dishwasher, washing machine, etc. most days. Now, in summer, the air conditioning runs a lot certainly during the night time, because it keeps the dog cool as well. Now, that's usually when the electricity bill peaks. There are also the colder nights over winter where the aircon turns into heating for us. Now, both electricity and water is paid every 2 months. We pay ours online, they send us the invoice and the link, and it is really easy to pay. Now, we have just had the builders for over a month to renovate our 3 bathrooms, and we have also installed a spa in the garden. So we have expected our bills to be slightly higher in the last payment. Now, just to give you an idea, our electricity bill for end of May to the end of July, we paid €193, which is approximately €96.50 per month. Now, in the winter, that was €130, so about €65 per month. Now, we were expecting that higher bill. Water is generally not our biggest cost, but it does add up, and we still use quite a bit. Our bill is roughly about €70 for 2 months, so €35 per month, which we don't think is overly bad, and it's still a lot cheaper than what the UK was charging us. You've then got your other bills, such as the internet. We pay $29.99 a month. We have 2 mobile SETA top-up cards. That's €10 each. We have our car insurance, which is approximately €32 a month. Home insurance is about the same. And then we also have the vet bills. Now, for Sid, we have a monthly cost of approximately $17.50, which we don't think is too bad, and that covers the flea, the tick and the worming. Now, it's €16 a month for the flea and the tick tablets, and every 3 months you get a message to say he is due for his worming medication, and that cost us recently €5, so not bad at all. Now, other costs include petrol. Now, for unleaded, today the price is €1.59. So we tend to go through about €70 to €80 a month. Now on to food. Now, some of the supermarket prices can be surprisingly similar to the UK, and some things cost more because they're imported. It just depends on what you like to buy. But fresh local produce, the fruit, the vegetables, things grown here can be excellent value, and there is a local market in Dorinia that offers this fresh produce at reasonable prices. Now, we have said in the past that we found the cost of food in general was a huge surprise, and we don't go back on that. It was a little bit of a shock, and we have had to spend some time looking around all the supermarkets. So what is our weekly shop cost? Well, it changes on what we need, but on screen you will see an example of what we tend to buy and their costs. Now, roughly we pay about €600 a month for our shopping, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. As we said, it just depends on what we need. Now, eating out costs us approximately another €200 a month. We try to do this about once a week, twice a week. Eating out is where Cyprus can really win though. You can still get a good meal for a very reasonable price, especially in your local restaurants, rather than just rely purely on the tourist areas. Now, it is nice to go into Ayia Napa, Protaras, Panera and have a meal out, get the vibe by all means, but you can expect to pay slightly more in the tourist areas. Part of the fun of living in Cyprus is finding and trying out the restaurants where the locals eat. Now, this can make your money go further, and our experiences are the local restaurants are fantastic. So, our honest summary. Now, your supermarket bill may not feel dramatically cheaper, but eating out and using the local produce can be. It just depends on what you prefer and if you are happy to shop around. Transport is another one that surprises people. You will almost certainly need a car or a moped in Eastern Cyprus, especially if you live outside the main resort centres. However, saying that, the bus network in Cyprus is fantastic and very reasonably priced. Be mindful though, there are no trains in Cyprus. Cars are generally more expensive to buy here, but they do seem to last. Now, talking about fuel prices, they do move around, but for us, fuel has generally been slightly cheaper than the UK with the euro to the pound conversion rate. Currently, it is 15th of August. We pay around €1.59 per litre for the unleaded. It is very similar to the UK prices, but with a conversion rate, like we said, it works out slightly cheaper. You then need to consider car insurance, road tax and the maintenance costs. Now, we have found our local mechanic very reasonable and more than happy to share the details privately if need be. Now, MOTs in Cyprus are every 2 years. They cost approximately 35 to 40 euros, but there is talk of this increasing to up to 46 euros. Now, a retest costs approximately 17 euros. Now, the car tax costs vary depending on the CO2 emissions, so you may need to do a little bit of research for that one. But I think the minimum cost is 10 euros and it goes up to 1,500 euros. Now, add all of that into your budget because having a car here in Eastern Cyprus is really beneficial. Now, the ones that catch people out. Health insurance. Now, this cost us 175 euros each. For the residency, we were charged 550 euros. Now, this was for a couple and not per person. Now, for your residency, there are so many pathways, but it is worth doing your homework and getting your research. There are companies on this island that will charge extortionate prices. So please make sure you get a few quotes, find out what is involved, what is excluded. Now, also when you're thinking of coming over to Cyprus, you need to think of furniture, appliances, delivery charges, and all of those small one-off costs when you first set up. Now, we did spend a mini fortune setting up our new home. Some stores, like 4-day clearance and IKEA, charge a lot for their delivery. Other stores charge very little. Now, if you live on a high-floor apartment or you're about to, delivery fees may be higher. There are also second-hand stores near Paralimni, such as Deja Vu and Andre's Bazaar, that can offer cheaper prices. Now, when you are setting up your home, the majority of items are not a huge cost on their own, but together the costs soon add up. Now, the first month or two is always the most expensive. You're finding your way around, you're finding your shops, you're finding your feet. Now, when we moved, we budgeted for the big items. Now, what we should have done is allowed more for all the little setup costs. So our advice is plan for 2 budgets, your monthly running costs and a separate pot for the first few months. If you were planning a move like ours, one thing we did was to create a budget on what our future cost could be. Now, first list your current UK costs, the rent or the mortgage, the bills, the food, the transport, absolutely everything that you pay now. Then research the same categories for the exact area of Cyprus you are considering. Talk to the people who live in Cyprus. Join the local FB groups. Ask about the real electricity and their mortgage and their rent figures. Then add a setup budget for the first few months on top. Now, that's how you are going to gain a realistic picture, not from any holiday brochures and not from what you're hearing on holiday kind of thing. Now, we would really say research the area you are interested in moving to, not the country, as each area has different costs. So, is it cheaper to live in Cyprus than the UK? Our honest answer, overall, for us it has worked out slightly cheaper, but not in the way that people expect. The big wins are eating out locally, the cost of fuel, which is slightly cheaper, and using the local produce. The things that aren't cheaper are some of the goods in supermarkets, for example, the imported goods, and also the setup costs of moving. And the weather. Well, you can't put a price on the sunshine, but you do pay for it in air conditioning, especially in August and September when it is seriously hot. So our advice, don't move to Cyprus purely to save money. Move here because you want the lifestyle. You would love the culture, the weather, and it's a different pace of life. If the finances also work out in your favour, that is a huge bonus. We do hope this gave you a realistic idea of what living in Cyprus actually costs. If you want more like this, please subscribe. We've got videos coming on residency, moving with a dog, and comparing the best areas to live. Leave us a comment with what you would like us to break down next, and we'll see you in the next one. Until next time, everyone, take care now. Bye.